So our dough has now been sitting in the fridge for about 2 days, cold fermenting. And as you can see, the wonderful bubbles and the aeration in this wonderful dough. So now we're going to be making a beautiful focaccia with this. I'll show you how that's going to come up next. So as you can see right here, I've lined a pan with parchment paper. I like to use the unbleached kind because it's healthier. And at this time, we're also going to set the temperature of the oven to 450 so it gets nice and hot once we add our focaccia. What I've also done is I've added a little tray, foil tray that I've created sort of makeshift, which I want to put some water into so we get a little steaming effect in the oven and make the focaccia nice and crispy on the outside. So here we're going to add now a little olive oil. Be generous. I like to use, of course, the best extra virgin olive oil, I should say, is the most economical extra virgin olive oil. That is also high quality. And I like the taste of the California oils. Just make sure when you buy it, it doesn't say a blend. It says 100% California, because now they've been blending the California oils with some other oils, like in places like Tunisia, which who knows how they handle that oil over there. So we want to make sure the quality is there. So as you can see now, we have our dough. And I'm just going to fold it a couple of times before I lay it into the pan using a spatula. Just going to stretch it out. You see those beautiful gluten fibers that have developed already. So I'm going to just hit it from each corner. And then we're going to lay it into our pan and let it proof for 1 more hour at least. So there, look at those beautiful fibers. And 1 more time for good measure. Get it in there. Yeah. So sometimes it also helps to wet your fingers so the dough doesn't stick. So I'm just going to add water to my fingers. So when I take it out of the pan, and notice what I'm going to do here is just going to let it kind of come up like that. And maybe 1 more time, 1 more fold. And we're going to just kind of let it get happy and find its place in the pan. So I'm going to let this just kind of sit for about an hour, and we will at that point come on and stretch it out some more and prepare it for its final baking. Notice how nice this dough looks. I'm just going to help it find a happy place into the pan. Stretch it out a little bit, and as it rests for the last hour, we'll see that the dough will be much easier to work with. But it's actually still a little bit cold. Ideally, I could have waited a little bit longer so the dough is more closer to room temperature, but it's going to be fine because I'm going to let it rest for another hour, and then at that point it should stretch out just fine. Okay, welcome back. So it's been about an hour, a little more than an hour. That dough is looking marvelous. As you can see, I've actually stretched out the pan a little bit prior to getting started here. And we're just going to make sure it goes out to the edges. And you can see that the dough is very fluffy and light, full of air. So it's going to be delicious. So as far as what kind of focaccia we're going to make today, I've decided that I'm going to make more of what we call a pizza focaccia. So it's actually going to be more like a classic pizza, but with the focaccia dough. And what makes it real marvelous is the dough is going to be real crispy and delicious, and hopefully crunchy, because we, in the oven, which I'll open real quick and show you, we have some water steaming in the bottom of the oven to make the dough really nice and crispy. So I'm just going to kind of put my fingers into the dough a little bit like this, make some holes, punching it all the way down to the bottom. Then I'm going to add our cheese. So anticipation of making this beautiful pizza, I let my cheese get up to room temperature so it doesn't hurt the dough. What I mean by hurting it is slow down the rising process and allow us to optimize the rising in the actual oven when it bakes. So I'm just going to spread out these pieces throughout the dough. Notice I'm putting the cheese first. There's no perfect science to this. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to space them out pretty evenly. And that's looking really good. So we decided today to make a real interesting cheese mixture. Instead of just going with mozzarella, I found that I really like the taste of some other cheeses like Gruyere and Swiss, and it gives it sort of a nutty flavor. I know some of my Italian friends might not agree with this, but honestly, from cooking this and using this kind of cheese, it actually comes out really delicious. Especially the pieces that get crusty on the edges. The flavor is beyond so good. So I'm going to add some Gruyere, which I've also let stand, get up to room temperature. We're just going to spread this around evenly, not be too stingy. Of course, we don't want to overdo it either because the pizza gets too heavy, right? Then we try and eat a slice. What's going to happen is that it's going to droop. We don't want droopy pizza. We want like crunchy, crispy pizza, delicious pizza. So there we go. I guess we'll kind of finish that off. Now what I'm going to do is also I'm going to just a little bit of olive oil. Just kind of drizzle across, back and forth. Make it really happy. And I also have some sea salt, which I'm going to add just for flavor. It's a little bit of sea salt. Excuse me, I'm using Himalayan salt today. Sea salt is also really good. In fact, many pizza chefs will tell you sea salt is the best, right? So what else we're going to do? We're going to add some tomatoes. Now the thing about tomato sauce and what I've found with most chefs, really good pizza chefs that I've watched and studied, is they are of the opinion that don't do too much to the sauce. Just keep it simple and basic. And focus on using really good quality tomatoes. So that's what I've done. I just got some tomatoes, whole tomatoes, and I'm just going to kind of crush them up a little bit and put them all around the top of my pizza. Now it's probably not a bad idea just to take a little bit of liquid off the tomatoes before you crush them up. And just kind of go around and put some pieces, nice chunks of tomato on there to give it that really bright flavor, wonderful taste. They say in Mars and tomatoes. So, again, the key is not too much, right? So we're going to keep spreading these tomatoes around a little more. That's looking really nice. Now, because we want to add a protein this time also, I found some really nice sausage, fresh sausage. We're going to make this out to be a sausage pizza. Now I'm just going to take some pieces of sausage. I'm just going to go around and put them in there. And this is going to be delicious. Of course, the oven is all nice and warm. Last worst thing you can do is make your pizza and say, oh, let's turn on the oven. Well, guess what? It's going to take that oven a long time to get up to 450 degrees. By the time it gets up to that temperature, your pizza is going to be soggy. So the very first thing you should always do when you're making pizza, or doing any kind of baking or cooking, is obviously turn on the oven. I know it sounds like common sense, really simple and basic, but believe me, it makes a big difference. So as you can see, I'm just kind of going around with some pieces of sausage, not an exact size, just make it a little bit on each. So each person gets a piece of pizza, they'll have a couple pieces of sausage. And we'll save the rest of that for later. Now since we're really going all out because my daughter just had a baby, we want to make a really special pizza, I'm going to add one of our favorite ingredients also, which are the Kalamata olives. So we're going to do that next. I have my olives right here. And this is not something you want to skip on either. Make sure you get the pitted. I've actually seen some pizzas online were made by some really good pizza chefs, pizza restaurants in Italy, that where they don't take out the pits. That's fine as long as you know about it, but it's kind of dangerous, especially if you have some small children eating the pizza. You want to make sure that you have the pitted olives. So we're going to add a few of these all around. And the nice thing about focaccia, and even though this doesn't really look like we think of as a classic focaccia, is that you can think of a focaccia as like a empty palette. And an artist is using that palette to paint the picture that they want to paint. And there's so many possibilities, so many endless possibilities as you can explore. That's the fun. So in a future video, I'm going to actually show you how I made this dough. I actually used some recipes that I found online. Actually, a couple of different ones that I sort of combined and experimented with, and this one seems to work the best. All right, so now we have our pizza looking really, really nice already. And we're going to just kind of put a little bit of basil. Now, you don't want to put too much because the basil can burn in the oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my scissors and just give it that essence. A few pieces here and there. And then when we bake this, we're going to see that the smell is going to be amazing. All these wonderful flavors, these fresh ingredients, organic ingredients, mind you, too, which I didn't mention yet. All these going to come together and make a marvelous pizza. So, this is looking beautiful. So what we're going to do next is we're going to pop this into the oven, and I'm going to just put a little bit more olive oil on top. A little around the crust. The crust gets nice and crunchy and happy. Okay, and what I noticed also is that I could probably use a little bit more cheese. So I have some mozzarella. I'm going to put some cheese, mozzarella cheese on the crust itself, so it's kind of pressed up against the edge of the pan. It gets nice and crunchy and delicious. Okay, I'm so excited. This is going to be amazing pizza. Can't wait to try it. All right, folks, here we go into the oven, which is preheated. And since we do have a lot of ingredients on this pizza, I am going to probably give it a little more time than a classic focaccia. Classic focaccia might take only 25 to 35 minutes. This might take up to 40 minutes or more. And I found also my oven runs a little bit cooler, so 450 is good. At home, you might decide to do this at 400. Or 375. We got a lot of ingredients like that, so it gives everything time to cook and the bottom doesn't burn. All right, so we'll come back in 1 hour and see how we did. So I'm going to set the timer for about 35 minutes and see how it's going. We'll check it from there. And if need be, we can let it go a little longer. Probably it's going to take another 10 minutes longer than that, but we just want to make sure it doesn't burn. So we'll check in with it in about 35 minutes from now. Okay, welcome back. It's been about 35 minutes, and I've just checked the pizza, and it looks like it's perfect. So let's take it out of the oven. Let you see how marvelous this came out. Very hot, and tasty, and delicious. So I'm going to let that cool just a little bit, and I'm going to bring it to my daughter in celebration of her new baby being born. God bless them. So one of the finishing touches, you can see I've been adding some basil, fresh basil, to the top of the pizza. Now that it's finished, which will just add another layer of that marvelous basil essence. So here we go. I'm just going to let it cool off a little bit, and it will be ready to eat. See that bright green color? Notice the basil that I put on before sort of turned because of the hot oven. That's okay. Added some wonderful flavors to it. So it's been great cooking with you today. Happy cooking to you as well, and God bless.